O Whistle and I Will Come to You is a short and terrifying story, which is included in the collection Ghost Stories of an Antiquary, and was written by M.R James in 1904. The main character is Professor Parkins of St James College and is described in the book as young, neat and precise in speech. But that is a far cry from the portrayal of Parkins' character as depicted in two BBC television adaptations of James' story, one in 1968 and the other was as recently as 2010. The role of Parkins in the 1968 version was played by Michael Hordern and the 2010 adaptation by John Hurt. Parkins, a professor of ontography, which, if you didn't know, is a mid-19th century description for a branch of knowledge dealing with the human response to the natural environment. In other words, a geographer. While the college breaks for the end of term, Parkins decides to head off to Burnstow, a fictional town created by James and based on the seaside town of Felixstowe, located in Suffolk, UK. He tells his colleagues he is going for a week or 10 days of golf to improve his game. James implied in the story that Parkins wants to get away from everyone and be left alone. While taking a look at the site of the monastic knights called the Templars, an order of monastic knights who existed from 1100 AD to 1300 AD. While always trying to keep a polite distance from his fellow guests at the hotel, he goes for solitary walks along the beach. The groins feature frequently in both the book and the 1968 film version. Parkins stumbles over a gorse route when he discovers he has arrived at the site of the Templar ruins. Digging about, he finds a small metal tubular object. When walking back along the shingle beach and having to climb over the groins, Parkins looks behind to gauge how much distance he has travelled from the site. He notices a solitary figure in the distance who seems to be making an effort to catch up with him. But each time he looks back to see if the figure has approached, the figure always remains at the same distance. Later that night, in his hotel room, Parkins cleans the dirt out of the pipe and recognises the object as some sort of whistle. As he clears the mud off with a pocket knife, he notices an inscription written in Latin, translated, "Who is this who is coming?" Now, he just had to blow that whistle, didn't he? And from then on, the very realistic world of Professor Parkins starts to warp out of shape. The wind blows. His imagination takes hold of a single figure in the expanse, the same who followed him along the beach. At breakfast the following morning, another guest at the hotel, a retired colonel, asks Parkins if he believes in ghosts. Parkins responds in a typical academic fashion, dismissing such beliefs as little more than superstition. That night, Parkins appears to have disturbing dreams of a spectre pursuing him on the beach. His nerves are not helped when the following morning he is informed by a maid that both of the beds in his room have been slept in. Even though Parkins only slept in one, increasingly disturbed, he searches a book for answers. That night he is awakened by a sound like flapping sheets. As he sits up in bed, the sheets from the other bed across the room move and then rise up into the phantom from the shore. The disturbance wakes the colonel, who comes to his aid, Parkins in stunned terror at what he has just witnessed. James taps into hidden paranoias within us all. Someone is there. Somebody is following us. Something out of the corner of our eye. A movement we thought we saw, but just can't quite see. Reminders of the hidden and the departed, the ghosts of the past that walk with us always. Just where I live, near Brighton Beach, Melbourne, Australia, are grim mementos carved into the bluestone blocks of the sea wall. To relieve unemployment during the Great Depression, the Public Works decided to recycle the demolished bluestone wall of the Old Melbourne Gaol, like the groins, to control natural sand drift. These same blocks, which were once part of the jail, were marked with the location of the buried inmates who were executed by hanging, as they had no tombstones. Carved into the stones were the initials and date of execution. And as I and countless others for the last 90 years take a leisurely walk along the beach, unbeknownst are the imprisoned stone markers of men once enclosed in a bluestone cell, the reminders of wretched lives now having the murky waters of Port Phillip Bay crash against them.